Hey everybody, it's Jordan from Us Geeks. Today I'm going to be doing a little video review of Wizkids Attackwing Dungeons & Dragons. It was released yesterday, and I've picked up the entire first wave. So I'm going to be looking at some of the models, some of the cards, and giving you some general impressions after having gotten in a couple small point games and having broken everything open and looked at everything. So sit back, this isn't going to be that long, but hopefully it'll help you make an informed decision on whether or not you want to get into yet another flight path game. Alright, first I'm going to give you a little look at what comes in the starter. This has all been revealed, but here is the blue dragon. Pretty solid looking piece. All the dragons are molded well, and the pegs fit well within their tails and their legs. And then there is the red dragon it's a very nice looking piece. You know, these are not Golden Demon type paint jobs, but for pre-painted, pre-assembled plastic, they're very nice. They're very well done. And then here is the teeny weeny little bronze dragon, well, teeny compared to the red dragon. And again, a pretty solid paint job. What comes in the starter box is everything that you would expect. You've got the bases, the pegs, and all the bits to make your dials. You got 6 attack dice and 6 defense dice, and your damage deck. As with X-Wing and Attack Wing, this is how your creatures are going to be affected by damage they take. And then a couple inches worth of cardboard. These are really big boards that come with your movement dials, objective markers, the rules, and status cards for pretty much anything you're going to need to do. Abilities that you're going to use, spells you're going to put on yourself or your opponent, your cooldown timer, and lots of other stuff. It's an MSRP of $49.99, which is $10 up from Attack Wing, Star Trek Attack Wing. But for only a $10 increase, you get significantly more cardboard and definitely more plastic in those dragons compared to the 3 ships that came in Star Trek Attack Wing. So just on volume alone, at $49.99, I think it's a good buy. If you're gonna pay full MSRP for this, I wouldn't be too worried about it. You get a lot in the box, and if you like the theme, it's well worth it. And then the expansions are the green dragon. He's really aggressive looking in this pose. I rather like it. I think he's my favorite of the dragons by their poses anyways. Haven't had a chance to play him yet. And then you can see the cards, very similar to X-Wing and Attack Wing layout. Get your front and rear arc, and then you got your stats, and then you got your excuse me, action bar over here. And the actions have changed names, but the mechanics are all generally the same. You've got an evade, a target lock, you know, all your standard stuff. And then in the first wave, the other big fig that came out is the Frost Giant. And he looks really cool. As you can see, other than the dragons and the wraiths, all the figures come on their standard RPG minis base, and then there is this little piece that they clip into, which then goes on the base. So other than the starter dragons and the wraiths that I'll get to, these actually serve a double purpose. If you're running any kind of fantasy campaign, these do double duty. Just pop them out of their base, and you've got a Frost Giant, you've got some elves, you've got some hobgoblins just out of the first set that are doing double duty. And I think if you are playing both this and an RPG where you're using these, that makes a much higher value, a much higher level of value for your minis. The Dwarven Ballista, which is just Ballista now. You know, it's pretty cool. It's got what you'd expect, a pretty unique movement dial. It doesn't go anywhere very fast, but it's got a decent range. Unfortunately, it's only got a 90-degree front arc. I would have hoped that they would have incorporated a little pivot action or something to be mimicked by a 180-degree, but still, it's I'm looking forward to using this. And then you've got the Sun Elf Mage. Also, the Nymestra is the named version. She comes with some pretty decent spells. She comes with Disintegrate, which is a 6-die spell that bypasses armor. So any hits will not be shrugged off by the armor. It just bypasses that and goes straight to damage. Then the two figures that I'm looking forward to the most using are the Wraiths. The Wraith pack comes with 2 actual Wraiths in it. I did not buy a second booster. It comes with Lord Maximilian and then a Wraith. The plastic itself is not labeled, so you can just interchange them on the pegs if you so choose. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Undead get a much better, or say much bigger footprint than just these two, because in most games that I play, I definitely have an affinity for the Undead, and Lord Max's a 50-point build just on his own. So at 120, even if I throw in another Wraith who's only 25, I believe, there's still lots of room to grow some Undead. So I hope they do not shirk their duty and do provide me much more Undead to build with. It would be nice to have a whole Undead army. I'm sure I'm not the only person that feels that way. And then there's the troops. They came in 6 packs. The Sun Elf Archers and the Hobgoblin Warband. These are pretty cool. They you can build, if you've seen the rules, units up to 6 big, and there's a point man, and everything revolves around the point man. The point man moves and everybody reforms around them. They don't have to keep the same, they don't have to have a static formation. They can change formation as they move. It's a really interesting mechanic, and I'm really interested to see, to get, you know, units of 6, less as I get more familiar with the game, but I just want to see a unit of 6 on the table and start experimenting with seeing how they work and how their abilities work, and what it's like to really move around and move these 6 figures around on the board. Their mechanics, their attack mechanic is somewhat similar to the Federation fighters or the Cardassian fighters from Attack Wing. Depending on how many figures you have, here, let me pop a base off. So you'll see the attack and defense are asterisks, and then it's got 1 health. So the asterisk is based on the number of figures in your unit. The more bases you have in your unit, up to 6, the harder they hit. The fewer have, the less they hit, but the harder they are to hit. Throw a fireball into the middle of the room, you're bound to hit somebody. But as you whittle down the people, it gets harder to hit. It's a good mechanic. I liked it when they implemented that with the fighters in Attack Wing, and I'm like seeing the units do this here. Overall, I think these, as with the dragons, are pretty good paint jobs for what you get. You get a lot of... well, no, not a lot. You get some decent amount of detail here. You spears on the Sun Elves. You can make out, you know, engraving or stuff like that on their front armor, and thread work or something like that on their back. And it's the same everywhere. You know, the ballista. They've attempted to make a little kind of wood or textured something on the front barrier there. And, you know, the Sun Elf that's got that nice little clear plastic fireball he's working on. So there's good detail here, both in terms of the paint and the models themselves. So these definitely look good on the table. I do like the smoked plastic for the Wraiths. I think that's a nice touch. They didn't try to make them solid and just paint them kind of eerie. I think the smoked plastic is a really good touch. And then the going back to the base, and it's, you know, it's all the standard stuff. You've got named versions on one side and generic versions on the other. And this is all very similar to Attack Wing, how they did, you know, the Enterprise D and Galaxy class starship. If you're familiar with Attack Wing, this game is going to be very easy for you to pick up. And the mechanics are all basically the same. There's a few tweaks and there's some different mechanics. In Attack Wing you had shields. And in D&D you've got armor. You know, there's a green dragon here has a static armor of 1. And when I was first reading the armor rules, I thought this was going to be a bit of a bottleneck, because unlike shields that you just whittle through and maybe repair, armor doesn't go away. This dragon has 1 armor, so whatever else it rolls in its evade dice, unless it's a crit or a spell that bypasses armor, it's always going to shrug off 1 damage. And some of the larger dragons have 2 armor, and everything I'm looking at here has 1 or 2. Some have 0 armor, but 1 or 2 armor. And I was looking at that, thinking that 2 armor consistently having to do at least 3 damage was going to be a bit of a bottleneck and slow down the game. But it turns out, just going through a couple games out of the starter box and looking at the cards, there's a lot of spells and a lot of abilities that are going to bypass armor at the dragon level and at your hero level. The troops, you know, your units of 3, 4, 5, 6, they're not necessarily going to have the most luck against the dragon. They're definitely going to be needing to roll, you know, 3 hits to do 1 damage. But the casters, the hero level characters and the dragons, they have a lot of tough abilities that are going to just bypass those armor points right away. The blue dragon has lightning breath. The red dragon has fire breath, and both throw 4 or 5 dice. So this stuff does bypass armor. So it does speed up the game, or I should say, it doesn't speed it up, but it doesn't slow it down like I thought it would. And that was a big relief for me, because I would hate to have seen this game slowed down by just a bad mechanic right out the gate. But there's a lot of stuff here that speeds up armor. Well, either speeds up the problem of armor, either by bypassing it or hitting hard. You know, for instance, the red dragon has a base attack of 5. Then you've got the cloud giant, frost giant I should say, with a base attack of 4. Not quite sure if you can see that around the base on my fat finger. But so there's some big dice being thrown by the big creatures and smaller dice being thrown by the smaller creatures, even though they might be in a unit. And then the hero level characters, it depends more on what their role is going to be. Nymestra here, the Sun Elf Wizard, she only has 1 melee attack, but she's got 3, maybe 4, depending on what you equip her with, arcane spell slots, so that you can really buff her out as the Uber Mage. And talking about the characters, I'll show you here a couple of the characters. Well, one of the characters anyways. This is the Lord Maximilian and the Wraith that I talked about earlier. You can see the geography of the card has changed a little bit from Attack Wing, Star Trek, but everything else is, everything that you'd expect is there. You've got your point cost, you got your stats, you've got your action bars, you've got what you can put on as an upgrade, and you've got your range. So, for instance, Lord Maximilian, he's 50 points. He can have 4 monster upgrades. It also tells you creature type and energy type. So he's undead and incorporeal. And as with Attack Wing, when they started to get special rules outside of the basic rule book, they included a little rule supplement for what incorporeal means. So some pretty nice defensive bonuses there. And he hits hard, he's dainty, he has a lot of life, he's only got 1 armor, but with his incorporeal defensive ability and 4 defense dice, he should be relatively hard to hit, especially since not only does he get 4 defense dice, he gets an evasion token as well, should he choose to use that for his action. So he's 50 points, and I believe he is straight up the most expensive figure in the starting box or the first wave, and that is something that I definitely am attracted to here, just to see what he can do compared to a 50-point Lich Wraith, I should say, compared to a 40-point Dragon. Just out of the box here, they've given us a good variety of cards, a good variety of creatures, some range, some melee, giants, little dudes, the ballista. So the cards, again, similar layout to Attack Wing. Everything, if you've played Attack Wing or X-Wing, is going to be familiar to you. What they've done very differently, though, from Attack Wing, where they used a lot of screen caps from the TV shows and movies, they've gone with a lot of generic symbols on the cards. So most arcane cards are going to have that on there. That's the arcane symbol. And then they also have, you know, these kind of, oops, that's bad. These kind of symbols on there, on your creature's upgrade bar, so you can add this kind of stuff, your arcane spells, whatnot. There's a variety of different upgrades in each class. I'm not quite sure how many spells, but there's stuff that's spells that you can add to your dragons if they can cast spells, or your casters. Stuff specific to your troops so that you can get bonuses if you have your troops in a specific formation, or if you have a specific number of troops, or stuff that just grants extra movement. Doesn't matter how many people you have in your troop. And what I like about this, I wasn't quite sure, judging by when they were doing the screenshots, or I should say the previews, but I like that it's got kind of a parchment look that kind of fits that D&D aesthetic. It's, you know, there's a flattened scroll here, you know, it's not got a lot of fancy artwork, but it's very colorful, and the text is readable despite the fact that it's not fancy. It's got, you know, just kind of a parchment thing, you know, you found this scroll, you know, in the desert, and it's the instructions for, you know, how to use your spell. So it's visually, I think all the cards and all the figures work really well together. The the bases all, you know, fit that theme, and then the damage deck is the same. It's the same kind of parchmenty look as your upgrades. So some pros and cons after just a couple games and looking through everything. It's Wizkids, and apparently Wizkids is just cursed never to have good dice. In both my bag and the bag that from a friend starter set, we each had one attack die, I should say, that has one of the faces not filled in. So we had to look at it for a second just to make sure that it wasn't just variations in the marbling. We looked at it, and it's definitely the one of the concentrate, one of the focus was not filled in properly. And I don't know who does WizKids dice, but this has been a bane for them. Attack Wing, this, Quarriers, they always have poor dice QC, but that's something you can easily fill in. You know, just put a white dab of ink in there or something so that you know it's whatever it's supposed to be, without actually, you know, jamming it full of crayon to unbalance the die roll. That is really, again, after just a couple plays and looking at everything, my only negative in terms of QC. Everything came out of their bags unpunched. Everything punched easily. There's nothing bent. There's nothing wrinkled. All the cards came out in great condition, and everything is really nice. Even the dials, and WizKids has been hit and miss with their dials in Attack Wing. So I don't know if I just happened to get lucky, or if whoever does their dials has finally mastered dial making, but in Attack Wing I found it really hit or miss in their dials. Some you would assemble and they would barely turn, and others would spin way too freely, so you had to always double check to make sure that the maneuver you put down was the maneuver that you put down. But all of these that I have through my entire first wave, all of them assembled well, spin nicely, and everything lines up well. The print in the exposed V actually lines up well. I've seen some stuff where the print was definitely off center compared to where the notch of the V was. So everything out of the box here, very nice. The rule book, good quality. It's pretty much what was posted online. So if you downloaded the PDF for that, you don't actually need the rule book, but you will need the templates. And well, actually, I think you might be able to sub in the Attack Wing or maybe even X-Wing templates for everything except for the rangefinder. But they are coming out with acrylic everything in January, February of next year. I've already pre-ordered a bunch of the purple bases and orange movement and range templates. So can't wait to pimp this out with all the extra acrylic stuff. So on to the positives. There are quite a lot. You all have heard me bag on Wizkids, so I'm not going to apologize for that. They've done a lot of things that have really irritated me over the years, but for this, they have really hit it out of the park in a lot of the small details. I'll go back to the Wraiths. So a lot of this might be more common knowledge. I certainly wasn't paying attention to every post that they put up about this game. But when they previewed the Wraiths, one of the Wraiths upgrades allows you to equip it, and if you kill a creature, if you're the killing blow on that creature, you spawn another Wraith. Now, coming from a background of things like Privateer Press and Games Workshop games, where they give you a box that can form 3 models, but you can only assemble 1 build unless you magnetize. I was really expecting this to be 1 Wraith, and if you wanted to spawn a whole army of Wraiths, like I'm going to try to do, you were going to have to buy 3 or 4 more boosters. But it turns out you get 2 Wraiths in that blister pack. So right out of the box, you can either field 2 Wraiths or field the Wraith and have your spawn available right away. What they've also done is with their movement dials. We knew that the dragons and other creatures that can fly were going to get the ground and the air movement dials. But for instance, there is a fly spell. So they gave you a specific move dial for the fly spell. You cast this, whoever casts it, and this is what their fly movement is going to be rather than the regular movement dial. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a piece of thought that last year I wouldn't have expected Wizkids to put in. Now I'm not bagging on well, I am, but I'm not really criticizing Attack Wing Star Trek because I thought that was a very fun game, and I've really enjoyed both OP and casual games. But you can tell that they just ported that from X-Wing, reskinned a few things for Star Trek, and away they went. This, you can tell that they've taken a lot of the complaints, a lot of the criticisms, and a lot of the feedback from the people that have played Attack Wing for a couple of years, or a year now, I should say, and really refined their system, both in terms of rules and what to expect in a box. So the Wraith, not only does it come with the 2 figures, should you want to spawn one, it also does come with the 2 dials. So you want to spawn your Wraith, cool. You can do that without needing to buy 2 boosters. I mean, at this point, you've got your 1 Wraith and another. I am going to go buy another booster just so I can try to, just spawn Wraith after Wraith after Wraith. I think for the first wave, Lord Max is going to have an easy time doing that. But they've started to do things like that in this set that makes me think they're paying attention. Also, as we discussed, what am I giving a lecture? You've got the troops. So you've got the generic Sun Elf Archer, and then on the other side, you've got the Harper Legion Elf. This is the troops, you can get up to 6 in the booster pack. But let's say you don't have the points to field all 6, but you've got enough points that you can do, the Harper Legion are more expensive. You don't have the points to do 6, but you do have the points left. You can do 4 Harpers and 2 of the basic elves. So you've got all 6 elves, you've got all 6 bases, but what do? You got 2 different types of elves. In fact, and they did the same with hobgoblins, they've given you 2 movement dials for your troops so that you can split your units into, 2 units of Harpers or, some Harper and some basic, and they've done the same thing with the hobgoblins. If I could find anywhere, yes. The hobgoblins are kind of Slaneshi colored here, so I approve of that. So it's a level of thought that was not previously there in Attack Wing, at least I don't think it was, that they've brought to this. Every box, okay, so this is what came with the starter set. And this is all the cardboard that comes with all the boosters for the first wave. In every booster, they give you everything you need. The tokens you need for your characters, for your character scenarios, and all that stuff. If I've got a burst spell, it comes with the burst spell tokens. So just like Attack Wing, if you buy multiples of these, you're going to end up with a lot of extra cardboard. But the quality of cardboard, the visuals, and all the status tokens that you need, and status tokens were something that were only added lately to Attack Wing Star Trek. So getting them right out of the gate here, I think that's a really big plus. I think overall, they've done a really good job. The artwork on the cards, like I mentioned, the upgrades, those are just basic. But the character cards, here's the elves. Here's the elves. And it's not just the same card. In Attack Wing, they give you the Enterprise D and then just a generic Galaxy class that's, a second-rate screen cap. The artwork here on both character cards, very nice. Oh, and that's the other thing I should mention. In Attack Wing, you've got the Galaxy class that's 28 points, and then the named version that's 30. And really, it's just the difference of a shield and maybe a hull or something like that, and the lack of an ability. There's a lot of difference between versions. You can see here the Harper Elf is 21, and then the basic elf is 11. So they've given you more options at all point levels, a lot better option and a lot more building options than Star Trek did. It's hard to run all generic ships in Star Trek because you really need those abilities. But even here, I think if you went to all the lower versions of the cards, you're freeing up so many points, many more points than you do in Star Trek by running all generic, to buff out your characters with upgrades and abilities. Again, the named versions have more abilities to upgrade through, but I think having a much more drastic difference in price between your named and your basic is an improvement, because there's going to be a lot more build options there, I think. And then as I've been going back to Lord Max all game anyway, you can see there's definitely stat differences, but it's not just 1 or 2. Lord Max is 50 points, the basic Wraith is 25 points, and you lose an ability and you lose a whole lot of stats and a lot of upgrades. So the named versions are definitely where the points are. So this is definitely, for me, an improvement over the generic starships. So overall, as you can tell, I'm pretty chuffed by this. It's grasped thematically, the D&D realm. Everything here is straight out of their Icons of the Realms and their other minis games. This is all their minis that are going through the Tiamat storyline right now, leading up to, I believe the basic mini is already out for Tiamat, but there's going to be a Tiamat figure at the end of the first 6 months of OP, should you be involved in a story that's doing OP. So everything here is what they're releasing for their RPG, just with the base connector attached to it. So as with the Giant, you know, anything other than the starter dragons, actually other than any of the dragons and the wraiths, everything here is dual purpose if you're running an FRP campaign. Heck, you could even incorporate the cards if you want as kind of a random loot deck. Hey, look, you get this armor or whatever. I don't think I'd go that far, but it's doable. So overall, I think they've hit, you know, if not a home run, at least a strong triple here. It's the minis are good quality. They're not, like I said, you know, crystal brush, but they're very good quality. The plastic stays together. None of this is assembled. Red Dragon comes out of the box like this, you know. Giant came out of the box like this. So everything is packaged well. It's standard clamshell blisters, just like the starships are, just bigger, obviously. Everything that you need is in there. I haven't had in the 8 boosters or the starter that I opened any need or even desire to Wizkids and complain, which is something that I have not been able to say for the last 2 years in any of their games. So at MSRP, which I did not get all this at MSRP, but at MSRP, I would say this is still a good buy. Right now, I'm only thinking of getting multiples of these, of the Wraiths, because of the ability to spawn more Wraiths on a kill. But the way they've got troops in packs of 6, and the way the big dudes are really well powered compared to the little dudes, I don't think there's a lot of need for duplicates right now. Maybe you want to run 2 bronze dragons, so yeah, you're going to go get it. But right out of the gate, until you've really started to formulate some strategies on how you want to build and what you like and what you don't like, and maybe pick up wave 2 and 3, I don't think there's a lot of need for duplicates, which is a pleasant surprise compared to when you get started with Attack Wing or X-Wing. Well, that's unfair. X-Wing, when it started, was really just X-Wings and TIE Fighters. But Attack Wing, when that first started, you really wanted to go out and get duplicates just so you could field the ships. You know, it was of your faction, unless you just wanted to be a mixed faction all the time. So yeah, overall, I think this is a really well done product right out of the gate. Even if you don't have a background in any of the flight path or wing games, I think this is relatively easy to pick up because it's rinse and repeat. It's pick your move, do your action, fight, ascending and descending, and that's what it is. This is just like all the other wing games. The variety and the strategy is in how you upgrade. Or in the case of X-Wing, what pilots are granting your abilities. But that's a different thing. So on the whole, yeah, if you like D&D and if you like the flight path system, definitely go out there and check this out. If you don't want to drop the $50 on the starter, that's totally understandable. It's $50 is a big price point for a game you might not be sure you want to play. So I encourage you to go out there, go to the WizKids event system, and you're never going to hear me say that. Stick in your zip code and find out what stores in your area are running demos or are going to set up an OP. Just go check it out, because this feeds, for me, a lot of hobby needs. It's a good fantasy minis game. It's a D&D minis game, which, though I play the Pathfinder RPG, I've played D&D, you know, since the original Red Box. So this, even though I'm not playing the paper and pencil version, this feeds a desire to be, you know, it feeds my nostalgia desire to be still playing D&D in some form. And then it's the flight path. If you like, you know, the original Wings of War, Wings of Glory, you know, Sails of Glory, though they don't call it that. Actually, I think they might. And then X-Wing and Attack Wing Star Trek. This is all in that same vein, just rethemed to the fantasy setting. So yeah, definitely go check that out. If you don't like D&D, don't give this a shot. If you don't like the flight path system, there's nothing new here that's going to change your opinion on that. It's all the same mechanics that were in X-Wing and are in Attack Wing. So if you're not keen on that, there's nothing here that's going to change that opinion. But if you like the fantasy, if you like the flight path, definitely give this a shot. At least go look at it somewhere and watch it being played. So looking forward, this is a game that can easily be expanded. They've already got stuff listed going out 3 or 4 months worth of expansions, but I'm talking about Dragonlance. I don't know if they have the full length and breadth of the TSR/Wizards of the Coast D&D properties, or if they only cut a deal for Tyranny of Dragons. But as was done in Star Trek with Admiral cards, I can see these additions, these being upgraded to Dragonlance type figures just by the addition of rider cards. There's obviously they have a huge universe and they're building it, but what I would like to see, what I would love to see is Dragonlance. They don't even need to make the riders. Visually, you know, they could make dragons with riders on them to be totally thematic, but you know, even just doing up Admiral cards only for riders, I think that would be a great way to implement a Dragonlance kind of theme for the game. If they keep doing what they have here going forward, though, even just with what they have for the Tyranny of Dragons, they got a great game, and definitely check it out because I totally think it's worth it. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.